Hello there YouTube, it's your boy B3, back with another kicking action figure review. Today we're looking at something pretty cool, pretty unique. It is the Titanic Creations Nosferadon. Yes, this is kind of a more heroic kaiju, despite the very villainous sounding name. In his comic book origin, Nosferadon #1, which does come with the figure, it says that like one kid's dad saw a movie, Nosferatu, and it scared the bejesus out of him. So that's where he gets the name, even though I don't believe it's directly given to him in the comic. I have read the comic, and the comic is actually going to get its own separate review down the line. I've actually already filmed it. I just don't know when I'm going to post it. But it's pretty cool, and I will show it to you in a sec. But here is the package for Nosferadon. You kind of have this neat box art, which looks to be by Brendan Purchase, who did the comic art. Pretty cool, Nosferadon in the big city, kind of just in the pose of the action figure. You know, top of the box, bottom of the box. I usually just show the boxes in the haul video, but I felt like this was a special occasion where the box should really be shown in the review. But now, let's pop this puppy open. You see, he's kind of in this double enclosed packaging, and he looks really good, so let me pull him out for you. And here's Nosferadon out of packaging, and to be honest, he's a really cool figure. He's not super articulated like their Gorgo. I think this was the second figure Titanic Creations did, and it is one of their own original kaiju. As I said, he's a more heroic kaiju. If you want to call Titanicus their Godzilla, then Nosferadon, I would say, is probably their Gamera. And in fact, he has a lot of Gamera parallels. He was made by a civilization that was destroyed by a monster and isn't really around anymore, a la Heisei and Reiwa Gamera. He befriends a child, a la All Gamera, and he fights to defend the planet a la Gamera. So I would say Nosferadon is the Titanic Creations Gamera, which is cool. And he is a cool figure. He's beautifully, beautifully sculpted. They did really excellently. Look at those back spines. Those are beautiful. They are kind of sharp, not terribly sharp. I reviewed Titanicus forever ago, but he was a solid mass, and I was like, you could use Titanicus as a weapon. This guy doesn't really feel as dangerous. But I'm sure he's a perfectly dangerous kaiju. He's beautiful. I love the translucent effects here on his wings. Like, that's a kind of above and beyond. A lot of toy companies wouldn't have made that translucent, but you know, a lot of these indie toy companies trying to make their mark. It looks really nice. And you guys know I'm a sucker for translucent parts on figures and just translucent figures in general. There's just something about it that I'm really attracted to, and I do love it. The paint is pretty great. It's all over. They got every speck of him. He's not detailed on the bottom of the feet, but that's kind of an above and beyond thing. It's not necessary. He's really cool. So much good detail. The paint's really clean, too. Nosferadon here is a very nice looking kaiju. And I like how he's the heroic kaiju, but he's very villainous looking and has a very villainous name, like in an ironic way. And then the kaiju he fights that is a villain looks like a griffin, which is kind of a heroic, noble creature from mythology. Or at least it invokes heroic imagery. So that's very interesting, and it's kind of like this yellowy golden color. So Nosferadon here is like these sickly poison colors. So he, in every way, seems like he'd be the villainous kaiju, but the one that seems like it would be the heroic kaiju is the villain, and he's the hero. That's very interesting. That is different and interesting and cool, and I like it a lot. Speaking of things I like, how about we get to articulation? It's not much. You know, you've got forward and back on the arm wings here, which is good. And then you've got forward and back on the leggies, as well as feet articulation, which isn't even really necessary. but they have it. It's not articulation you can do much with, but it is there. Maybe it can just help him on terrain that's not super flat or something. And then the tail also articulates. I would have liked head or jaw maybe, but Titanicus didn't have it, so I'm not surprised that this guy doesn't either. But still, you know, that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. You know, that's more than the Movie Monster series gets. But this guy is, you know, kind of bigger than a lot of Movie Monster series figures and whatnot. Better painted, etc. But since we're talking about other toy lines, how about we do some size comparisons, huh? Since we were talking about the Movie Monster series, here he is with the Bandai Japan Movie Monster series, Godzilla Store exclusive, Godzilla 1973, a very recent review of mine. That looks cool, I like that. You know, he's mostly walking around on all fours, so it's fine that Godzilla's taller because he's much longer. Then how about Bandai Creations? Here he is with the Bandai America Showa Gigan. Also really cool, really digging that. Let's go back to the Movie Monster series with the anime Ultraman. You know, this guy does hatch as much smaller than his would-be kaiju size, but not this small, because remember, this Ultraman is human-sized. So that doesn't quite work. But let's try the Ultra Monster series with Zeragus. This is the Spark Doll-sized Zeragus. And while Nosferadon is much bigger, Ultra Monsters come in so many different shapes and sizes, and they're looking each other in the eye, which kind of makes your brain be like, oh yeah, that works. That's cool too. Then the quote-unquote all-new Ultra Hero series, so that way we can show, this is from 2009, so it's not new anymore, but that's what they called it, the all-new Ultra Hero series. Here is Jeanbot, so this is more a kaiju fighting-sized robot, and he actually seems a little big almost. But then again, this is a creature on all fours, so if he stood up on his hind legs, you know, maybe that does work. I don't have any problem with it. Initially it seemed weird, but when you think about it, it actually works. Huh. Now, of course, we gotta compare him with Titanic Creation stuff. First up, let's show him with one of their new super articulated figures. It is there. Gorgo. This was a pretty sought-after figure. Ooh, when it first landed. You can still get the comic version and the 30cm version, but I don't think you can really get this Gorgo anymore. And this is really technically Orga. And she looks pretty cool with them, I think. She's a much smaller kaiju, but she's still that 6-inch scale. But once again, Nosferadon is just longer. So looking her in the eye, I think it looks good. And, you know, Titanic Creations is going to give us even more kaiju. They're working on, I think, making a deal on Pulgasari, and Yongari is definitely coming, so can't wait for that. Now, we have to show Nosferadon with the Titanic Creations kaiju. Let's actually swap sides here real quick. This was my first Titanic Creations figure. It is their OG Titanicus, and they do want to make a super articulated Titanicus, but I don't think I really need it. I'm fine with this one. But yeah, they look pretty good. You can actually see where like sculpting and paint has actually improved on Nosferadon. Because this was their first figure, and this is their first version of Titanicus that I have, I believe. And this Nosferadon is one of their later releases of him. They look great together. They look great together. Very happy to have them both in my collection. Finally, just 2 more of their original kaiju to go. And of course, Yongari when he comes out. Nice. Now let's talk about the comic book. I've already bagged and boarded it. Here, ooh, the reflection. Here it is. Nosferadon #1, the follow-up to Titanicus, issue 0, that came with Titanicus. And of course, you're supposed to read this before you read their graphic novel, Soul War, which I do have and will be reviewing, and I will have a review just of this book coming up. But in all honesty, it's okay. Like, if this was sold by itself on the newsstand or at a comic shop, and I bought it and read it, I'd probably be disappointed. Especially with this cover art that's not very inspired. But as a comic that's just included with an action figure of a original character to kind of tell you what that character is, it's fine. And I'll get into more specifics and the things I liked and didn't like in the single review of the comic. But it's not bad by any means. So, what are my final thoughts on the Titanic Creations Nosferadon figure? It's cool. I really like it. It's a dope design. I love the translucent bits, the sculpting, the paint. It's all beautiful. It has more articulation than it needs. It could be better, but once again, this was kind of an indie figure. And it was their second one when they were just starting out. Now they're starting to do some super articulated stuff. I can understand why they didn't start with super articulated on these, because they're brand new characters that they created that nobody knew about. People would not have been willing to pay super articulation prices. I wouldn't have, and I still don't want to for Titanicus, because I have this one and I'm perfectly happy with it. But with Gorgo, Nyongari, Pulgasari, characters that are kind of kaiju cult classics and known by many people, but don't have a lot of figures of them, super articulation makes much more sense. But I like this guy just how he is. I actually really like the figure. It's nice, it's made well, it seems relatively durable. These wrists kind of aren't super rigid, so I don't think they'll break if you drop him. But he's a good figure, and I do enjoy him. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll be seeing you all next time. Bye for now.